While they were shaping a sturdy agricultural community, British officers to the north provided weapons and military advisors for desperadoes ready to raid Florida for slave fugitives. With hostile British forces closing in on its Florida border as early as 1587, Spain recruited anyone willing to fight these invaders. Florida became a Spanish buffer zone protected by Native American and African warriors, assisted by a sprinkling of pirates, smugglers, and others. In 1739, slave fugitives living in St. Augustine built a fort to protect their families and stem British incursions. Spain, with a few of its own soldiers, was pleased to have their lands protected by these dark men. The English were furious about a fort guarded by hundreds of armed Africans and their Indian allies. Black Seminoles played a vital part in the coalition against the slave power to the north. Their knowledge of faring in Florida was second to none. They also brought the kind of information slaves always have about their masters' ways of thinking. One observer described them as stout and even gigantic, the finest-looking people I have ever seen. They seemed immune to the malaria and smallpox that devastated Indians and Europeans. British and then U.S. slaveholders were horrified by the strong relationships among red and black Seminoles. Each owed the other a measure of devotion and service, and this was hardly what whites had come to expect from Africans. Black Seminoles had well-built homes and raised fine crops of corn, sweet potatoes, vegetables, and cotton. They owned herds of livestock and had time for hunting and fishing. They were known for their excellent fighting skills, a major in the Georgia militia calling them the Seminoles' best soldiers. By the 19th century, black Seminoles had become key advisors and valuable interpreters for the nation. They were familiar with English, Spanish, and the Muskogee or Hitchiti Seminole languages. Not all African runaways from slavery lived among the Seminoles, for some had formed their own maroon settlements. Against slaveholders, however, all united. The First Seminole War. Georgia slaveholders soon understood that black Seminole camps could put an end to their slave system. To extinguish this beacon attracting the daring among their slaves, a group calling themselves Patriots plotted to annex Florida. Acting on information that a massive assault was being planned, Seminoles struck first at U.S. plantations. When St. Augustine blacks joined the attack, desertions from plantations began to swell Seminole ranks. With surprise raids, Seminoles destroyed a U.S. wagon train, bottled up the Georgia militia, and assassinated the Patriot leader. President James Madison, who had been giving the Patriot cause covert support, had to withdraw his aid. But the U.S. slaveholder presence began to undermine the equality between red and black Seminoles. Blacks, though still teachers and advisors, now desperately needed Seminole protection against U.S. slave hunters. The United States, the giant to the north, threatened Seminole land and peace. But for black Seminole families, liberty itself was at stake. The United States, represented by General Andrew Jackson, hero of New Orleans, prepared to wipe out Seminole resistance. Black Seminoles had taken over a British fortress supplied with 4 cannons, sitting on the Apalachicola River on the Florida Panhandle. Fort Negro was largely manned by black officers and men under the direction of Commander Garcia.